That happens every single day, and most drivers never see it coming. The stop starts with a broken taillight and ends with you talking yourself into a much bigger problem. Hit subscribe right now because what you hear in the next few minutes could save your freedom one day. Like this video now so you can find it fast when your heart is pounding on the side of the road. You need to know what really happens in that moment. You need to know which questions sound friendly but are actually traps. You need to know the one sentence that shuts down a consent search, the one question that tells you if the stop is over. And you need to know the one mistake that turns a simple ticket into a fishing trip through your whole car. Most people have no idea how fast a normal stop can grow teeth. One extra sentence from you can give the officer a reason to dig deeper, ask more questions, call a dog, or it can start building a case out of your own words. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. The drivers who talk too much give the officer more material. The drivers who stay calm, short, and clear usually protect themselves a lot better. Now think about what most people do when those lights come on behind them. Your heart starts racing. Your mouth gets dry. You want to explain everything. You want to sound nice. You want the officer to know you're a good person. So you start saying way too much. You say where you're coming from. You say where you're going. You say you were only going a little fast. You say you only had one drink. You say your friend left that bag in the car. Here's the reality. Every extra word gives the officer something to use, twist, or dig into. You're not there to win a conversation. You're there to get through the stop without handing over your rights. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Your goal is simple. Be polite, be calm, be short, and never explain more than you must. The first thing you need to master is giving only what is required and nothing extra. Let me show you exactly how this sounds when you do it right. When the officer gets to your window, you hand over your documents and keep it clean. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, here's my license, registration, and insurance. If the officer starts asking where you're coming from, where you're headed, or if you've been drinking, or why you're nervous, you say this. I'm not answering questions. Word for word. Memorize that line. That sounds almost too simple, but that's why it works. You're not being rude. You're not yelling. You're not lying. You're just not volunteering information. And that matters because your own words are often the first building blocks of a case. In Berkmer v. McCarty, the Supreme Court said, roadside questioning is usually not the same as full custody. In plain English, that means the officer can ask questions before reading you your rights, and your answers can still hurt you later. So if you think, I'll just explain and clear this up, slow down. Your explanation might be the evidence. Bad way, most drivers say, I know I was speeding, but I'm late, and I only had one beer at dinner. Then the officer hears an admission and the stop gets bigger. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, here's my license, registration, and insurance. I'm not answering questions. Then the officer has a lot less to build on. Watch what happens when you use the short version. The stop stays about the stop. No side stories, no extra facts, no maybe I smell alcohol moment, no weird timeline for the officer to compare later. Defense attorneys use this exact line because short answers leave less damage behind. If your state requires you to identify yourself during a lawful stop, do that. Give your documents. Give your name if required. But after that, you do not owe the officer your whole evening in story form. And please hear this part. Never lie. Lying can make things worse fast. You don't need a fake story. You need fewer words. That's the whole power here. Your silence keeps you from becoming your own witness against yourself. Former police officers have confirmed this works because officers are trained to listen for details. When you stop feeding the conversation, you stop feeding the investigation. Have you ever been asked where you were coming from? Drop a comment below if you answered or stayed quiet. The second tactic is the line that protects your car, your bags, and everything inside. If the officer asks, you mind if I take a look? This is the moment that changes everything. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. Say it calmly, say it clearly, then stop talking. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to refuse consent, and you should because consent is the shortcut. If you give it, you make the officer's job easy. In Schneckloth v. Bustamante, the court said a search can be valid if your consent was voluntary. In simple English, if you say yes, the search usually gets a green light. That is why this one sentence matters so much. Once you give consent, you don't get to take back the damage already done. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, I don't have anything to hide. Then the officer gets access. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer has to find some other legal reason, or the search may not happen at all. And yes, the officer may still search if there is another lawful reason, like probable cause. Probable cause just means a strong reason backed by real facts. Maybe you get arrested and other rules kick in. But here's why your refusal still matters. You never want to be the reason the search became easy. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it keeps you from opening the door yourself. In Knowles v. Iowa, the court said police could not do a full search just because they issued a citation. A ticket alone does not mean they get to tear through your vehicle. So if you politely refuse consent, you are not being difficult. You are following the actual rules. The officer may act offended and repeat, "If you have nothing to hide, why not?" Ignore the bait. That question is built to make you feel guilty for using your rights. Rights are for you on your worst, most nervous day. Nice people talk themselves into bad searches. But cooperation does not mean surrender. It does not mean you volunteer access to your private space. Watch what happens when you stay calm and repeat the line one time. No long speech. Just, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That sentence is clean, simple, and powerful. The third tactic is how you stop a traffic stop from turning into a waiting game. Once the job of this stop is done, the officer does not get to keep you there just to go fishing. After your documents come back and the ticket is done, you look at the officer and ask one question. Say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Memorize that line too. In Rodriguez v. United States, the court said police cannot stretch out a traffic stop longer than needed, unless they have reasonable suspicion based on facts, not a hunch, not a vibe. Your question forces clarity and puts the stop on the record in a clean way. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I guess I'll wait here if you need anything else." Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That question matters because so many drivers don't realize the stop quietly changes shape. Rodriguez says the officer's authority ends when the mission of the stop is done. It means the officer needs a real legal reason to keep extending things. Wait until the traffic business appears done, then ask it calmly. No sarcasm, no anger. Former police officers confirm this works because it forces a decision point. If the officer says, "You're free to leave," leave. Don't stay there trying to explain more. The fourth tactic is about what to do if the officer orders you out of the car. If the officer orders you out, you should comply physically and keep your mouth controlled. Say, "I will comply. I do not consent to any searches, and I'm not answering questions." In Pennsylvania versus Mims, the court said officers can order a driver out of a lawfully stopped car. Fighting that order on the road is a losing battle. Your job is to comply safely. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it separates physical compliance from verbal surrender. If they ask more questions once you're outside, the answer does not change. Berkmer for words, Schneckloth for searches, Rodriguez for time, and Mims for movement. Be polite, don't volunteer, don't consent. Ask if you're free and comply without talking yourself into trouble. Next video, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe right now. Smash, like if this gave you a plan. Drop a comment telling me which line you would use first. Stay safe. C 2026, Script Scene Splitter AI GitHub.